Hello and welcome back to Grounded in Grace. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Kristen Freeman and my husband Michael and I have been married for 7 years and we have 2 wonderful children, and we just love living a simple life, budgeting and having fun, making memories with our family without spending a fortune. So if that is the kind of content that you love, we talk all things motherhood here on this channel. So anything from family movie nights to vacation do's and don'ts to packing and prepping and budgeting and meal planning, all the things that encompass motherhood, that's what we describe and discuss on this channel. So we would love to have you join us. Today's video is a little bit personal. So about a month ago, not quite a month ago, about three weeks ago or so, I actually lost my part-time job. And so, as you know, in today's economy, that is a big stressor. So we're going to talk about my top 10 tips for budgeting for groceries and meals on one income. So for full disclosure, I do work part-time still on my own, but it's been very minimal, kind of building back up. So we basically have been doing mostly on my husband's salary, and just a little bit that we had saved up for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So here's some of my top tips and tricks for living on one income and budgeting on a lower income. So I'm going to give you my top favorite ideas, and I hope some of these can help you as well. So coming off with number 1, I'm going to start off with one that's not necessarily a budgeting tip or trick, but it's one that I have found to be incredibly helpful, and that is pray, don't panic. And so starting off with that one, it is really, really easy to panic, especially if you have my kind of personality. I tend to get a little bit more anxious and nervous about things just in general. And so when I found out that I lost my job, that could be a huge stressor for me. And it was a huge stressor. But praying allowed me to feel a calm in that moment and to realize that God has promised He would always provide for our needs. And so you can kind of stop and take that step back and look at God's promises and realize that in this moment you can truly test God's character and the things that He has said about Himself. He has promised to provide for our needs. He has promised that He would always be with us. He has promised that He is always faithful. And you can look at Him and know that He will do the things that He said that He will do, even if it doesn't make sense to us and even if we're not sure about how He's going to do that. So my first tip that I have doesn't have as much to do with budgeting. It just kind of has to do with general life here on this channel and kind of how we live. We are Christians. And so my first tip is pray. Pray, don't panic. Tip number 2 is pivot. And so this one also doesn't have anything necessarily to do with budgeting, but in a way it does. So hang on just a second, I'll explain that. I once had a pastor tell me, it was preaching in a sermon, and it's kind of stuck out to me, and I pulled from it in these moments where things seem a little bit tighter. And that is from the story of Elisha when he's talking to the widow, and she needs the oil, she doesn't have any food, and he looks at her and he says, basically, what do you have in your house? And she's like, I don't have anything except for these pots. And he's like, get them. God's going to use those pots. And so think about, what do you have in your house that can help you with a tough time? Obviously, follow your local tax laws and your local selling laws. Don't do anything illegal. You don't want to take a bad situation and make it worse. But think about, what skills has God gifted you that could help you to get through this time? Can you bake really well and have like a bake sale? Can you run a yard sale? Do you have like way too many things and you just need to like declutter some, double it over, take it to a consignment shop, run it in a yard sale? Do you teach really well? Do you know a topic, an art, something that you could teach and run a class and just earn a little bit of extra income? For me, teaching is what I do. It's what I've done for the last 10 years. And so I just opened up some more online classes. That's that little bit of self-employment I was telling you about earlier. We're kind of building up through that. But that is kind of what I did. I pivoted a little bit. I went from this job and that security of this job to being on my own and leaning into creating some more of my digital resources and to creating a little bit more classes and things that I can offer with my new company that I'm working with, which if you are interested, if you're looking for anything to kind of supplement your homeschool, you can drop a comment down below. I'll be glad to tell you more about that. But that's what I did. So first of all, pray, don't panic. Second of all, pivot. Now let's get into the actual budgeting tips and tricks. What can we do? We're looking at one income or we're looking at a lower income. Things are tighter this month. What can we do to kind of change it up and to do things differently. So tip number 3, or number 1, depending on how you're looking at this, is go meatless. As many times as you can. You don't want to completely take meat out of your diet unless you are replacing it with some other kind of protein, because you do want to make sure you're getting all the healthy fats and things that you need. But what nights can you maybe scale back or downsize or not use meat at all? So think about stuffed shells stuffed with cheese. You're still getting some of that protein from the cheese, but you're not having to buy meat to go in it. Meat is really expensive these days. Think about doing a grilled cheese and soup night. Again, you have that cheese for the protein, so you're not being hungry, but you're not buying meat to go in it. It's low cost. It's effective. Pots of soup can go a really long way as well. So think about that. What can you do? How can you scale down the amount of nights that you have to use meat? All right. Tip number 4 is what I'm calling cook once, eat twice. So think about those nights that maybe you froze 1.3 pounds of hamburger and you really only need a pound, and really you don't even need a full pound for whatever it is that you're making. Maybe you're not making a meatloaf. Maybe you're making spaghetti and tacos the next night or something. Split that meat into 2 meals. So use a little smaller portion of the meat to make the spaghetti sauce with, and then make tacos with the bulk of it, that 3/4 to almost a pound of the meat, and then use that little 1/4 of a pound to a 1/2 a pound of meat to make the spaghetti sauce. You're cooking it all up at the same time. Once it's cooked, split it and make it into 2 different meals. All right. Tip number 5, let's talk about using local resources. So in the summertime, one of the schools near us has a summer lunch program where they are giving away 7 mornings of breakfast and 7 afternoons of lunch for the kids. 1 for each child. And so we have 2 kids. And so they've been giving that. And we've been kind of recycling that and using it for the kids' lunches during the daytime. That cuts down on the grocery budget, right? So what local resources do you have? Remember that that's what they're there for, to get you through a little bit of a tough time. So don't feel that mom guilt that we're so tempted to feel. Make sure that you are using the sources that God has put in your community. And then one day when things are a little bit better, you too can pay it forward. All right. Tip number 6 is leftover night. So every few nights, or you can do something like make a little bit extra of it, but have a leftover night. It keeps you from having to cook. And if it's something that your family loves, they're not going to mind having it again. Think spaghetti, think chicken Alfredo, think taco meat. Have a leftover night that allows you to not have to cook and to use up any leftover groceries, so they're not just going into the trash can. Another really good one with this, if you're like, we hate leftovers, we don't want leftover night, because I do know some people like that who do not like leftovers at all. A good way to do that is maybe if you have that leftover taco meat, instead of being like, okay, it's now Taco Tuesday and Taco Thursday, you can do that Taco Tuesday. Keep whatever leftover meat you have, and on Thursday, instead of having tacos again, turn it into a nacho bar or a baked potato bar where you can put some of that taco meat over top of it. So think kind of creatively, how can you use those leftovers without maybe having to double the amount of nights that you have a certain meal, especially if it's one that you're not a huge fan of. All right, tip number 7 is to shop your house first. And I should have started with this one, and I completely forgot as I was looking at my list. I just kind of started talking, but shop your house first. Go through your pantry, go through your refrigerator, go through any stock supplies that you have. And instead of doing what do we have that we want to have and I need to go buy, look at what we already have that I can cook from and go through that first, because anything that you've already purchased doesn't have to be purchased again. So if you already have all the seasonings for white chicken chili and you already have the chicken for white chicken chili and all you need is a can of beans, that's going to be a lot cheaper than being like, oh, we're going to have chicken Alfredo and we need, milk and we need cheese and we need pasta. So shop what you have and meal plan from that. Now, if you were like me and you're like, I don't like to meal plan the week ahead, I don't know what I'm going to feel like eating on Thursday, then you can just kind of write down a list of a meal plan based on what you have, and then just cross them off as you use them for a week. You don't have to actually assign them to a night. And that's one way that I kind of get around the whole meal planning thing. Tip number 8 is use staples. So think of cheap things that you can use in more ways than one. maybe a big bag of rice. You can make chicken fried rice. You can make rice as a side. You can put chicken over rice. You can make rice, like Spanish rice on the side to go with taco night. You can make a chicken and rice casserole. There's lots of different ways to use rice. So think about what can we buy in bulk that's going to be a little bit cheaper. Tortillas. We can have tacos with them, and instead of wasting the rest of the tortillas, if they are, kind of getting hard or they're not going to be great, instead of having to waste those, we can make chicken roll-ups. Like we can make the different wraps and things, and we can use them for lunches to do like lunch wraps. So think about ways to use bulk items that are a little bit cheaper. Beans, rice, pasta, occasionally eggs. Eggs have gotten to be pretty expensive, but you do get 12 for like $2.80 something, I think it is, at our current Aldi's. I just bought them last week, and so I think it was about $2.80. So those are a great one. Breakfast can be a cheap way to go. You can make a whole breakfast casserole, which usually will last, 2 or 3 days for breakfast, or a couple of nights for dinner. With crescent rolls, a pound of cooked sausage, and 4 eggs. For under $10, you'll get 2 meals, and it's pretty easy to do. So if you're interested in any of my like budget meals, or you're like, I would really love to see some ideas, I don't know where to start or how to double up meals, let me know in the comments. I will be glad to either compile a cookbook and drop it in my next video, or do a few cooking videos as well. So just let me know what you would be interested in seeing. All right, tip number 9 is get creative. We've talked about this a little bit in this video already, but get creative. Think about what foods can you make that maybe are similar to something that you really enjoy. So one dinner that we used to do a lot, and then I kind of switched it up because it was a lot of work for me. But now looking back, I'm like, hey, this is a lot cheaper. And so this is just kind of an example of getting creative. Is we used to make Cajun chicken pasta, and it took half and half, and it took milk, and it took cheese, and it took lots of seasonings, and about a pound of chicken. And so my daughter wouldn't eat it because it was too spicy. And so I ended up making chicken Alfredo. But my husband and I still kind of like that little bit of Cajun pasta. So now I'll just put a little bit of the Cajun seasoning, or a little bit of the Italian seasoning, however we are kind of feeling that night, on the chicken. And then she'll eat the cheesy pasta, and we'll put the chicken on ours. And so we still are getting a little bit of that Cajun, but we're only paying, $5 or $6 for the whole meal, because we're doing a salad and garlic bread and a big pot of the chicken Alfredo with Alfredo sauce. And I know some people, don't come at me at the comments, I know some people are like, you can make Alfredo sauce, but this season of my life is really busy. My son has several therapies, and I am homeschooling my daughter, and I'm also trying to work a few hours. So right now we are doing the canned Alfredo sauce, but I would love to get your recipe for Alfredo if you have a really simple one. And then tip number 10 is not really a budgeting tip. It's just kind of keeping your sanity in this season of life. And that is, one, to remember this is a season, but also that seasons need to come with joy. And what I mean by that is budget in for a treat. It doesn't have to be, $30 cake at the store, but maybe you guys are having a movie night and you're going to make homemade pizza that night, and you really want a treat. Budget in for some cookies that you guys can make together, or for a bowl of ice cream and some cheap waffle cones. $5 or $6 in your budget, if you can spring it, is way better than feeling strapped down to the last penny and losing that joy in the memories of motherhood. So one of the things that my husband and I like to do after we get our kids in the bed and settled is we'll sit down and we'll watch something, and we'll just have kind of a little bit of a sweet snack, and we still keep that in our budget because it's something that we enjoy. On family movie nights, we like to have a little treat with the kids and that ice cream. And so sometimes those things double, right? We might have a tub of ice cream that my husband and I might eat some nights. And then on family movie nights, we share that with the kids, or they might have theirs earlier in the day and we'll have ours after they go to bed. But try to keep something in your budget that sparks joy, something that makes you happy, because this is a season, and seasons come with their own blessings, and they don't have to be gloomy and sad. All right, that is all of the 10 tips that I have for you today. One series that we've got coming up is going to be family memories on a budget. And we're going to be talking about things that you can do locally that will be pretty much in any area or at your own house that will bring a lot of fun and a lot of family memories at a very low price tag. So if you are interested in that content, go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you for sticking around. If you made it to the end of the video, I am so glad to have you here. And I hope that this season passes for you quickly and then we all find joy in this particular season that we found ourselves in. Have a great day and God bless you. Bye.